Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Mimi. If you're here for some chill Minecraft gameplay with Reddit stories in the background while you sleep, study, or just relax, you're in the right place. Today we're going to be reading some of the scariest stalker stories. We're on r/ask Reddit. I couldn't find the r/stalker Reddit. There definitely is one, I can't do it for some reason. And then today I'm going to be building a little amethyst cave. That would be cute and whatnot, so let's go ahead and just get into it. Grab you a drink, get you a blankie, and buckle up. Our first story comes from the Redditor, Blue Raspberry Jello. When I was a kid, maybe about 15 or 16, I got my first real taste of something that didn't feel right. You know that feeling, like someone's eyes are just there, even when you can't see them. There was a guy who used to come into the store I worked at. He was much older than me, mid-20s maybe, and at first I thought he was just weird. He'd always stand a little too close, ask questions that were just slightly off. One day, he started showing up more often. He'd come in on my shifts, sometimes buying something like a small drink or a candy bar, but most of the time he didn't buy anything at all. He'd just watch me, always smiling, always waiting for me to notice him. I brushed it off for a while, told myself I was being paranoid, but then he started waiting outside the store. Sometimes leaning up against the wall, sometimes sitting in his car, engine running, every single night. It got to a point where I couldn't walk home without checking over my shoulder every few steps. I'd change my route, duck down side streets, even stop in random stores, but he'd still be there. Always there. One night, my manager finally offered to walk me to my car. We stepped outside, and sure enough, there he was, across the street, watching, not moving, not blinking. That's when my manager called the police. They came, questioned him, told him to leave me alone, and for a few weeks, he did. But that feeling, that crawling invisible stare, it stuck with me. Even now, years later, every time I leave work at night, I still look over my shoulder, just in case. That must be terrifying when you have a job and, you have to work and someone just takes the loving, beautiful time out of their day to come and stalk you. I know that must have been extremely, extremely terrifying, especially since you were just a kid and this is like a really grown man. I know that these stalkers probably just don't think that they're creepy in their heads, but can you imagine being a child working and then you just see a grown man constantly showing up? It's very scary. Alright, so this next Reddit story is from California Dog Girl. When I was about 19, I met this guy who worked at the subway near where I worked. He was a nice guy enough. Polite, funny, and he took me out on a date. At first, everything seemed really good. But about a week into it, things started to shift. He began asking me for money. At first, it was little things. $1 or $2 for a soda, maybe $5 for gas. Then it escalated. A few hundred there and here, just to get by, but I never gave it to him. He started talking about moving in together only after 2 weeks of dating. When we go out in public, he did do these bizarre things. He'd scream or sing in nonsense at the top of his lungs. He'd laugh afterward and said he was just having fun, but it was weird and embarrassing. And my dog, my sweet, friendly dog who loved everyone, wouldn't let him near me. He'd growl, bare his teeth, even try to bite him. He'd never done that before. By the end of the second week, I decided to end it. I broke up with him over the phone, which I usually hated doing, but something about his behavior made me nervous. That's when he flipped out. He started showing up at my work so often, my manager had to ban him from the building. Coworkers walked me to my car. He was everywhere. He'd appear at the grocery store, at the gas station. He'd send me these long, rambling texts and emails about how we were meant to be together and how he couldn't live without me. Then, one night, he showed up outside my house in the middle of the night and told me to come outside. I told him to leave or I'd call the cops. He started sobbing, loud, shaking, nearly hyperventilating. I locked the doors and stayed inside. The next day I was home alone, studying. My dog started barking. That deep, protective bark. Then, the doorbell rang. I figured maybe it was the mailman, but then the door handle started to move. I grabbed the only thing nearby, a broom. My dog went wild. Someone opened the door. He tried to step inside and my dog lunged. I ran to the bathroom, locked myself in, and shouted that I'd call the police. He ran. My neighbor, an ex-military guy, came over, checked the house, made sure I was safe. My dog had a few cuts, but he was okay. The next day, I filed for a restraining order. My dad called his father and explained what happened. After that, I got a few more emails, but he never came back. It was only about a 3-week ordeal. But to this day, it still makes my skin crawl. The obsession is just so creepy. He definitely sounded like he had extreme insecurity issues because, you guys clearly didn't, your personalities did not mesh, especially with him, like, being really loud in public and embarrassing to you. And girl, I get it. I've been there. I do not like that stuff. I have extreme social anxiety, and I really don't like it when people are, like, super obnoxious and loud because I don't want people looking at me. But, yeah, that's awful that he decided to stalk you after that. People need to learn how to take rejection better. Seriously. Alright, so our next story is from Ragbagger. I was in 8th grade when formspring.me became a thing. It was one of those anonymous question sites people could use to send messages by revealing who they were. At first, it was harmless. Then one Monday, messages started. I was watching you walk down blank street after school. You're so beautiful, I want to hurt you. Stuff like that. Creepy, but at first, I thought it was a joke. Maybe one of my friends messing with me. So I deleted my page and tried to forget about it. But the next day, the email started. From someone I didn't know. He started mentioning my teachers by name. He described the park near my house. He said he wanted to meet me there, to hurt me. Then he started counting down the days until Friday, the day he said I would die. Each day, he sent me another email, more detailed, more violent. By Wednesday, I broke down. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I was shivering all the time, not from the cold, but from fear. I finally told my parents. The school got involved. The police started tracing the emails. And it turned out it was a quiet kid from my math class, someone I'd never even talked to. That was the scariest part. Not the threats themselves, but realizing someone you barely notice could be thinking of you like that. Even now, just remembering it makes my stomach twist. Yeah, that's a little, it's giving me goosebumps because there are so many people that just walk around every day and you have no idea what they're thinking, like about you or the world or what's going on in their head. And it definitely sounded like that kid needed some help because the way he was venting was being really creepy to you. I hope he got therapy and definitely changed his ways because having that early on is definitely a sign of like extreme mental distress and disorder. Alright, so our next story is from the Redditor Thought Factory. By the way, all of these stories were posted 10 years ago. And when I say Thought Factory, I mean like a thought in your head, okay? Not the other thing. Alright, so let's get into it. Back when I first started my radio career, I was in my early 20s, decent looking, good personality, and full of energy. Working as a DJ, I had fans. Some of them were intense, but one woman, she took it to another level. It started small. She'd call in during my show almost every night. Then she'd start waiting for me in the station's parking lot. If I did a public appearance, she was there, every time. Eventually, she figured out what car I drove. Sometimes, when I left work, I'd see her tailing me a few cars back. The police told me how to handle it. Vary my routes, leave at different times, take random turns, never let her learn my pattern. She wasn't violent, just unsettling. She was in her 30s, but she acted like a teenager with a crush. One night, I was exhausted and forgot to check my mirror. She followed me all the way to my apartment complex. I noticed her car just in time. So I drove in circles, looped through the complex, then headed across town. Straight for the police station. 2 blocks away, she finally turned off. Thankfully, she never figured out where I lived. And then, one day, she was gone. No more calls, no more parking lot stakeouts. I later found out on another radio station that had hired a new guy. She moved on to him. I called him and gave him a friendly heads up, but honestly, no one deserves that kind of attention. How do we feel about this one? This is very weird. I don't understand how someone can just pick somebody who's semi-famous in their town from a radio station and just like think it's okay to stalk them. Like, that is another human being. These people idolize the people that they stalk and throw them up on a pedestal and just think that they can do anything and that it's okay or they won't be noticed. And just because someone's famous does not give you the right to stalk them and follow them home every single night And the fact that she moved on to someone else means that this behavior, she's probably been doing it for a long time and has never been reprimanded for it. Alright, so our next story comes from the Redditor Arctic Hedgehog. I used to work at a convenience store, just a regular job really, but around the corner there was a halfway house, a place for the people who were medicated, unstable, just sometimes lost. They came in often. I was 17 at the time. That's when I first noticed her. From a distance, she looked normal, but up close, things were really off. Her makeup was always smeared. Bright red lipstick one day, yellow or pink the next. Always messy. Always a little wrong. She wore the same outfit every time, and walked like she wasn't quite sure where she was. The first time she came in, she bought a 30-cent pack of gum and handed me a $10 bill. As I gave her the change, she stared at me, unblinking, then smiled and said, "You're so pretty, so beautiful, I want to be like you." I laughed nervously. "Haha, thanks, here's your change." Then she leaned forward and whispered, "You know, I have $1 million, and I'm going to marry Ryan Seacrest. We'll live in a big house on the moon. I'll tell you where my million's hidden, but I'd have the power not to." I just nodded. Okay, and off she went. I figured she was one of the local schizophrenic folks. Most never caused harm, but then she started coming back. Not to buy anything, just to stare. She'd walk in, smiling silently, wandering around the aisles, never breaking eye contact, and leave without a word. It creeped me out so badly that I started carrying pepper spray. Then the stalking began. I'd walk my dog, and she'd be standing behind a car just watching. I'd sit on my balcony, and she'd yell, "Hey!" Redditor's name. "You look pretty today." In stores, she'd hide behind racks, giggling and whispering to herself. When I turned around, she'd run off. And then she broke into my house. I caught it on my webcam. It was late. I was about to shower when I heard the front door open. Then a faint voice. "Oh, so this is your house." I turned on my laptop webcam just in case. I grabbed my phone, heart pounding. "What are you doing here?" I asked. She said, I just wanted to see if you were here. Do you have a phone I could borrow?" "Use the one outside." "I don't have enough money." "It's 35 cents. "I don't have 35 cents. "Well, you can't be here, so go." She turned to leave. Then I heard rustling near the door. I ran over, and I saw her stuffing our dirty laundry into her shirt. "Leave that alone! That's not yours!" She dropped everything and bolted out the door. I called the police. They caught her, and that was the last time she bothered me. The final time I ever saw her was through my window. She was outside at 2 in the morning, doing something explicit with a homeless man while his friends watched. It was so disturbing, but in a way, I was just glad she wasn't watching me anymore. Oh gosh. That's awful. I can't imagine being in a town where, like, you know, there's disabled people or mentally disabled people who, you know, the town doesn't really take care of properly, and they're just out terrorizing the town residents. It's really sad because they deserve the best care, and clearly she wasn't getting it. It almost seemed like she had, like, the mind of, like, a young child or a teenager. I'm not saying her actions were right, because she was grown and she was actively stalking a minor, but I'm just saying I wish she could have gotten the help that she obviously needed. Alright, so this next story comes from the Redditor Cordy Kitty. There was a kid I knew in 8th grade. Quiet, strange, but not in an unusual way. When he first started talking, it wasn't about normal things. He'd talk about murdering his family. He described how he'd do it. Poisoning, fire. His voice calm, almost detached. My friends and I told the school. They sent him away for therapy. After a week, he came back. Everything seemed fine, and for a while, I didn't think much of it. Then came high school. He and I ended up at the same one, same English class. We never spoke, not once. Then, the last day of freshman year, I walked out of my house and saw an envelope on the sidewalk with my name on it. Just my first name. I opened it. It was a 7-page letter, and several drawings. The letter described my life, everything I had done that year, every place I had went. He wrote that I was always his target, that he wanted to gain power by taking mine. The drawings showed me hanging from a rope. He was standing beside me, smiling. There were Bible verses about Satan scrawled into the margins. I showed my dad. He took it straight to the police. They ran his name and found he already had a record. Nothing's happened since, but now, as I'm about to start my senior year, I can't shake the feeling that this might be the year he finally tries something. Girl, I am so scared for you that you are going to a high school with this person. And she doesn't really say whether or not, there's no update, so she doesn't say whether or not she ever sees him again. But knowing that he already has a record and they're letting him just be around normal kids, that's kind of a sign that, maybe he needs different type of structure, like maybe homeschooling or something like that. It must be really creepy to open up drawings and then they're of you hanging and your suspected stalker just standing right next to you. If he didn't get transferred to a different type of school after that, then the police have failed and the school administration failed. And honestly, as a parent, I'm not saying her dad failed, but as a parent, I would definitely take my daughter out of school and drive her to the next school over. Alright, so this next story is by 7 Unicorns United. When I was in high school, there was a guy who wouldn't leave me alone. He wanted to date me, but there was something off about him. He made my skin crawl. The first time I said no, he punched a locker, hard, and ran away. After that, he joined every after-school club I was in. He'd follow me home, always a few steps behind. I tried to be polite, but I told him I didn't like him following me, but I wasn't firm enough to make him stop. He'd always turn right back around before my street. That was the only small mercy. Then one day, he told me if I didn't go out with him, he'd off himself. I said no. He disappeared for a few days. When he came back, his wrists were bandaged. He cornered me in an empty hallway, held his wrist up to me, and said, "You made me do this." I just walked away. Months later, near graduation, I was staying late at a club meeting. He came up behind me, grabbed me. I froze. He said something, I don't remember what, and walked away like nothing happened. I thought I was finally done with him, but when I went to college, he transferred there too. He acted the same, manipulative, controlling, always nearby. I lived in constant fear until I finally transferred schools. A year later, I started getting emails from him. First, they were apologies. They turned into begging, asking for my Facebook. I already blocked him on there too, so I blocked his email as well. And then finally, silence. I moved across country for other reasons, but honestly, knowing he'd never accidentally find me again brought me the most relief I'd felt in years. Yes, and I'm happy you had the opportunity to move across the country, because a lot of people don't get that. A lot of people get to the point where their friends and their family and, authority just ignores them until it's too late. These stalking stories, 9 out of 10 times, a stalker will try to off the person that they're stalking. And that's either due to the obsession or rejection or whatnot. There's also people who will stalk other people because they want to be them. I've seen stories like that. A girl was stalking this other girl because the guy that she liked the girl she was stalking. So she was trying to be her, and that's so creepy because you gotta think, how far are these people going to go to try to achieve what they want? Okay, so our next Reddit story is from the Redditor Real Ice Cream. She'd never do anything that was too crazy, at least not in the way the police would agree with. To me though, she was a complete nutcase. She was my ex's ex-girlfriend. At first, it was just usual nonsense. Late night texts, phone calls that wouldn't stop. One minute she'd threaten me, the next she'd write him love notes, as if she could win him back through sheer persistence. When I finally broke up with him, I'd figured she'd leave me alone, right? Wrong. Every single day, she texted me, sometimes from different numbers, claiming to be her sister or friend. Whether that was true or not, I'll never know. She'd send things like, "Don't you want to know why I hate you? I know who your boyfriend is. I'm texting him right now." The last one actually made me laugh, because at that point, I had no one. I had moved back in with my parents. I was depressed, suicidal even. But apparently, I had a new boyfriend. Who knew? A year later, I got a message on Facebook from a closed account. I won't repeat what it said, but something about it, the phrasing, the obsession, I just knew it was her. I never saw that girl face to face. But even now, I still fear her. She messed with my head for a year and a half. The mental damage she caused changed the way I see people. All in all, she's a real B-word, and I don't like her very much. The end. You guys know that by now, if you've seen my other videos, I read these stories for the first time. So It's hilarious that I was just talking about a girl that I knew who had a stalker, where the girl wanted to be her because of her boyfriend. This is like the same kind of vibe. And I'm telling you, some girls get obsessed with other girls when the guy that they likes that girl. They want to be her, or they want to torture her for some reason. And you can see that it's stuck. She didn't even care about the guy anymore. She just wanted to hurt this Redditor. And that's just like so creepy, like how she just obsessively focused on the girl. So our next story is from the Redditor Forget Lonely. Let's get into it. He lived across the street from me. At first, he was just a really friendly neighbor, a bit awkward but harmless. Then, one day, I caught him staring. Not casually, but intensely, unblinking. It wasn't just once, it was every day. When I left for school, he was there. When I came home, he was watching from his porch. At night, I'd see the faint glow of a cigarette just outside his house, pointed right towards my window. One afternoon, I was getting the mail. He walked up and said, "You shouldn't walk around here alone." I forced a smile, took my letters, and went straight inside. A few days later, I found a note under my doormat. It said, "You looked so pretty today. The sun really loves your skin." That was it. No signature, just that sentence. I told my parents. We called the police. They didn't do much, but they agreed to help keep an eye on him. 2 nights later, someone knocked on my window. I looked up and saw him standing there, smiling. I screamed, and my dad came running. By the time he got outside, the man was gone. We filed another report. He was warned, told to stay away. A week after that, a burnt cigarette appeared on my windowsill. That was the last time. He moved out 2 months later. No explanation, no goodbye. Sometimes late at night, I swear I can feel someone watching still. It gets to the point where it's like, as an older person, I get that maybe you want to be protective of the younger kids in your neighborhood, and that's totally fine. Like sitting out on the porch and waiting for them to go inside after they're done playing and whatnot. But this guy took it way too far. He was definitely stalking her and being really, really creepy, and he honestly deserved to be put on a list for that. Because telling a minor that your skin is so beautiful in the sun today and like standing outside of her window is some PDF file activity, if you know what I mean. Our next story is from the Redditor In the Wake of Chaos. This happened to my sister. She was 16 at the time, quiet, shy, and easily frightened. She started noticing small things at first. Her window would be open in the morning. Her curtains slightly moved. Then she found footprints outside of her window. My parents thought it was just a prank, until she woke up one night to the sound of breathing inside her room. She froze, didn't move. Then she heard the floor creak. Someone was under her bed. She didn't scream, didn't even breathe loudly. She slowly reached for the phone and texted my mom, "Please come to my room. Don't knock." When my parents came in, the man bolted from under the bed, and he ran out the back door. The police came. They found fingerprints. It was one of the neighbors, a man in his 40s. He had been watching her for months. He had even stolen her diary from her backpack. They arrested him. He went to jail. But my sister, she still can't sleep without checking under her bed. That is so creepy. He was under the bed and he stole her diary. He was so obsessed with her. And this is when I talk about that obsession, because think about what steps did it take for him to eventually decide, now I'm going to start staying underneath her bed because I am that obsessed with her. I've already stolen her diary. I've already stalked her. Now I think it's just time for me to start laying underneath her bed while she sleeps. And think about it. You never know what he had planned that night. Alright, so our next story is from Lonely. My ex was the kind of person who didn't know when to stop. Even after we broke up, he always found new ways to hurt me. He leaked my private pictures of me online, which, horrifyingly, wasn't even the worst thing he did. One night, I was home alone. My mom was out. I rarely locked the door, a mistake I'll never make again. I went to take a shower. Steam filled the room. Music played softly from my phone. When I stepped out, I felt something, a presence. I froze. Then, I heard breathing coming from under my bed. I didn't run. I couldn't. I grabbed my phone and called 911. The operator picked up, but I couldn't say what was happening. He was still there. So I was pretending that I was calling my mom. "Hey Mom, are you close? I might need you to pick up something." The operator, "Ma'am, this is 911. Me whispering, "Mom, I asked you, are you close?" Pause. The operator caught on. "Ma'am, are you unable to talk but need help?" "Yes, Mom." "Can you tell me the address?" "You'll need to put your name, street name, on the envelope, Mom." "Thank you, ma'am. We'll send help immediately." I hung up. Then, he crawled out from under my bed. My heart nearly stopped. He said, "We need to talk. Did you get my letter?" I forced a smile. "Yes." I just need time to think about it. Would you like some tea? He nodded. For a second, I thought maybe he'd calm down. Then, a knock on the door. The police. When I opened it, I burst into tears. They searched him and found a knife and a gun. He was arrested, charged with trespassing and possession of an unlicensed weapon. He did time in prison. Now I have a restraining order, but I still check under my bed before I sleep. Every single night. Back to back, creeps being under the bed. What is with that? Now I'm like, I have an opening underneath my bed, and like now I'm about to buy a platform bed. Like, this is making me just want to get an entire new bed frame so that there is no option for someone to get under my bed. That is so creepy. So now a little story from yours truly, and this is a true story. When I was 16, I got a job at Taco Bell. It was my first ever job, and I used to work after school. So my schedule looked like, you know, school from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then, well, more like 6 a.m. to like 3 p.m. I'd be home by 4 p.m. and then I'd start work at 4:30. Well, right by my house, there was this alleyway that we would just like walk through. There was an alleyway and then there was a street, and it wasn't like concrete or anything. It was like, it was just like a grass pathway. It was really, really long and pretty wide. So usually I would just take that to get to work because I could walk to work. It took me 5 minutes because my house was like catty corner from the Taco Bell. So I didn't have to have a car. I could just easily walk to work. Well, time passed and my schedule usually looked like 4:30 to 10 p.m. Then I'd go home, go to school, you know, kind of like that. One night I noticed there was a couple sitting at a table and they were kind of just minding their own business as I was working. But I noticed that they had come in at 7 p.m., right? The whole time they sat there and they didn't order anything, and I never noticed it. So they ended up leaving and I left and I went home, and you know, the day repeated. A week passes, right? As a week passes, every single day that I'm working, they're there. Whether they order like a small thing and they leave or whatnot, they're always there. One night, it's like 10 and they're just sitting there still. They leave at 10 and it gets to 10:30, which is like the doors are already locked at 10. So they left, we locked the doors, and then I waited 30 minutes because I got off at 10:30 that night. Well, I noticed that when they left, they were kind of hanging around outside of the building, staring into the windows, and I was a little creeped out. And I told my manager, I was like, hey, can I just stay till like 11 tonight? You know, I feel a little weird. These people are just hanging around. They've been hanging around. And she was like, yeah, go ahead and just stay. So I stayed, and eventually I left at 11 and they let me out and I started walking home. I kid you not, right where the alleyway is, they were standing right next to it. So I was like, you know what? I'm smarter than this. I'm not going to walk down there, because they started walking down first. Like as soon as I started walking up, they started walking down the alleyway first. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take a detour. So I took a left and I went to the, like, there was a road, a busy road, and there was a sidewalk by, like, this storage place. So I started walked into the entrance of the neighborhood. The alleyway was on the right, and they started walking out to try to intercept my path. So I just kept walking, and they walked over to the side of the street to my left, and they started walking next to me. And the man, like, he had his hand inside of his hoodie, and he was, like, messing with something. And, dude, I got so creeped out, like, my instincts just knew something was wrong. And it looked like he was undoing a knife, like, in his hoodie. Like, you know, like a pocket knife. Like, I could see something. He was messing with something in there. This man turns to me, and he looks at me, and he says, hey, do you live alone? I am not kidding. I just booked it. Because my instincts were, like, on fire at that point. These people had been stalking me. 100%. They had been stalking me. So I started running, and I ran so fast, and I could hear some shuffling behind me. I'm smart. I did not look back. I just, like, booked it, right? As I ran to my home, the door to my house was unlocked. My brother was home, but my family always locks the door when they come in. Always. I ran in, I opened the door and ran in, and I closed it and slammed it. My brother came out of his room, and he was like, what's going on? Like, why are you freaking out? And I was like, dude, these people were stalking me. They were trying to, like, they asked me if I lived alone, and I just ran. Because, like, I'm not going to, like, try to figure out what they're doing, you know? I'm not going to give them time to, you know, end up hurting me, so. But that's a real life story from Mimi. It was really scary. I quit my job. After that. When I told my manager, I was like, my mom doesn't want me walking anymore. We didn't really have a car at that time, so, yeah. But, if you enjoyed that last story, leave a comment on what you thought about it. If you have ever had a stalking story, I would love to hear about it in the comments. I would probably make another video of all of the comments. If you guys are comfortable with that, you can totally post your story and then just let me know if you want me to include it in a video, and I will read it for you. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed me reading stories to you today. I hope you have an amazing day or night. And don't forget to like and subscribe this video for more content like this. Mimi out.